So anytime you have a generator, you're gonna want the hertz to be about 60. So at 3,600 RPM, it should be at 60 hertz. That's what you're gonna wanna run your equipment on. The engine has a governor, obviously. I think it's like 300 or 400 RPM it's good for, the governor, but the engine is only so big, so depending on what kind of a load you have on this, you're gonna wanna keep the hertz output in mind. What you run on the equipment is everybody's totally different. Not everybody knows, and it might fluctuate. You might be running more at one time or less at another time. But you wanna make sure that you're relatively in line with 60 hertz. Most multimeters don't have a hertz measurement. This one does. You can see that little HZ right there. So that'll measure hertz. We'll put these two prongs in to the outlet and we'll look for 30 hertz. I'm sorry, not 30, 60 hertz. So we're gonna know. I'll also put a tachometer on the spark plug wire so that way I can just kind of show you the correlation. I'm gonna fire it up and then we'll measure the hertz. So if it's like 61 or 62 hertz, somewhere in there, we can safely assume that the RPMs are probably gonna be like, maybe 3,700, 3,650, somewhere in there. And then if it's in the high 50s, we're gonna know that the RPM is slightly below. So the hertz that are at 60 and 3,600 RPM, that's without a load. And obviously a generator without a load on it is kind of useless. You're gonna be generating power to something that you need to run. So it's okay if the hertz are a little bit plus or minus. You just don't want them way out of whack. So if they're at, under a heavy load, if it's at 59, something, that's okay. As long as it doesn't drop too low, that's what you want to pay attention to. Just adjusting the RPM and setting it at 3,600 and then moving on without understanding the load is not the correct way to adjust one of these things. You might see some stuff out there that say that, and while it's relevant, it's not paying attention to the hertz is far more important of what it's putting out. So I'll do that. And I'm narrating this right now because when it's on, it's gonna be hard for me to talk. I'm gonna fire it up. We'll shove these things in. We'll see how many hertz it's outputting, and then I'll show you what that means for the RPM. I'll put a load on it with this heat gun. The max rated output or watts is, I think, 3,500. I think this will probably be, I don't know, maybe 1,000 or so. So I don't even know if we'll get quite up to half, but it's good if you do test it with a load on it. You wanna try to maybe put half a load or 3/4 of a load. So if the max rated is 35, if you can find something in the 1,700 watt, 18, maybe 2,000 watt, that would be best. So we'll put that on too, and I'll kind of show you how it'll drop. Just for example, if we're at 62 and it's running fine, and then we put this load on it of 1,000 watts, it might drop down to, maybe 60 or 60.5. And that's what you're looking for. And that's what you want to make sure it's just. So if there's no load on it and it's running above 60, that's fine. You just want to make sure, again, I know I'm really belaboring this. You just want to make sure it doesn't drop below like 58, 57. Once it starts to get down, that's when you can, or if it's too high, right? 63, 64, 65, that can be troublesome. If you have any questions, email me, chrisxoutdoors@icloud.com, Instagram, Facebook, @chrisxoutdoors, comment below, whatever you want, and we'll get this figured out. Okay, so hopefully that made sense. As predicted, when we first turned it on, it was at like 60, 62 hertz, something like that, and the engine RPM was a little bit above 3,600. I think it was like 3,660 or 3,650, something like that. When we put a load on it, it dropped down to about 60. So that's where you want to have it adjusted. So this, I didn't necessarily do any adjusting to this one, other than, you know, when you've seen me, most of them are going to have this. It'll be in a different spot somewhere up by the engine. There'll be a screw, Phillips head, flathead, whatever. You can dial those engine RPMs up or down to help you meet the hertz. So, you know, under good conditions, should it be at 36, maybe a little bit higher because you're going to want to compensate for that load? Yes, just make sure that you're not too far out of whack of around 60 hertz. The engine RPM is relevant, but if that's the only thing that you're looking at, you may have, you know, again, it depends on the load that's on it. So if you're at 3,600 RPM and you put a huge load on it, you know, that's going to drop, and your hertz coming out are going to be, you know, well down into the 50s, and that's not okay. Subsequently, if you're too high, you know, you just want to make sure that you're somewhere in a happy medium. And again, it helps if you know if you have a consistent schedule of what you're running. Again, there's a lot of great videos out there on the subject. Just make sure whoever you're getting advice from is constantly hitting on the hertz output. If they're only focusing on our engine RPM, I would get different advice. You want that hertz to be in check. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for this one. Hopefully you got some value and some entertainment out of the video. If you like the video, remember to hit that thumbs up button. It really helps. I appreciate every single interaction that anybody has with this video. If you're into this sort of content, consider subscribing to the channel. I will do my darndest to bring value and entertainment to you, I promise. Until next time, remember, tomorrow is not guaranteed. Okay, so get out there, go do something, go make something, go create something, and send me a message and let me know what it is. I really want to know.